Okay, so Revo Fitness are on board with the Pies Nation podcast. And look, I'll be honest, when I heard it was $9.69 a week, I had some questions, particularly with no lock-in contracts, but there's no catch. Full gym, everything you need, free weights, pin and plate, cardio, functional training, and it's open 24/7 with no dodgy fine print. Who's a Collingwood player that would be an absolute gym nut at Revo that would always be there 24/7?
Well, I think it's Billy Frampton, Nico. Obviously, a lot of noise out of the club that he's the bench press king, so I think he'd been there a fair bit.
Now, for $3 more a week, you can get unlimited Pilates, massage chairs, and the eVolt body scans thrown in, which I definitely need to look into. But Pilates, massage chairs, anyone ring a bell from the Collingwood Footy Club that might utilise some of that?
I think you might find Geordie to go in a massage chair, Nico. Just taking things easy, 24/7, enjoying life.
Clubs are already all over Australia, so chances are there's one near you. Check it out at revofitness.com.au or sign up in Club Revo Fitness. Genuinely good value. I wouldn't lie to you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. My name is Nicholas Sacco, your host. Once again, this is episode 13 of season 8, or episode 214 if you are counting from the beginning. The first quarter gave us hope, and whilst it felt like the rest of the match was just building up to the inevitable, we still just missed out on another all-time Collingwood upset. Going down to Sydney at the SCGs, we quickly shift our attention towards this week's celebrations. Today, we discuss how our younger-looking Pie side almost did the job over the Swans. We get some fan reactions to the narrow defeat thanks to SpeakPie. We chat to our next guest, the crowd competition winner, and we get all the latest from the VFL and the VFLW over the weekend. And as I welcome Marcus Callahan and Jack Dugan to the Backchat studios, I still don't know how to feel about that one. Fantastic and very proud of the effort that the boys gave, considering the names we had out of the side and knowing how formidable the Swans have been this year, particularly on their home deck. It was very hard to find a pathway to win leading into the match, but whilst we started really strong and the pressure was great, we couldn't sustain it, and credit to the Swans for keeping us in the game, but just couldn't find the way to win.
A unique feeling coming to the studio today, fellas. We've obviously just come off a spirited loss, is how I probably describe it. One that we probably think we should have walked away with the win, but nonetheless, there's a very special occasion that we'll have to split our attention with happening this week, and we'll get into that in a moment. But Jacko, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, look, I think I said it last week on the podcast, boys, that having an honourable loss up there would just be my worst nightmare, and then having lived through that, I couldn't help but feel, proud of the effort, and almost even in the last quarter where it looked like we were going to get really run over the top of, just the fight that we showed to not let that game get away from us and almost pinch it back, it's got to be said. So look, proud, disappointed, as you said, Nico, a mixture of emotions, but thank God we have, a really important milestone to look forward to. I think this week it sort of, gets me straight back into that positive mindset. If we didn't have that, troubles, I reckon.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely spend some time on that shortly, which means we don't have to spend too much time on this game, which is great. So we can get through it as quick as we can. But we will start, as always, with the pie. That caught our eye. Marcus, interested to see where we lent with you this week.
Yeah, it was a tough one to actually pick out. I just felt it was a bit of a dreary match. It was obviously competitive towards the end, but the weather, the greasy conditions didn't make for a fantastic spectacle. Nonetheless, a guy who thrives in these sorts of conditions is Lachie Schultz. And I want to start with some positives on him. Just relentless as the Swans tried to bring the ball out of our forward line. A number of occasions where he was getting a hand or two hands on a bloke and just ripping them down. And so that was the positive. Really loved his pressure, and we've learned to see him bring as much effort as anyone in this side week to week, I think, over the last few seasons. So a great recruit in that regard. The downside is, unfortunately, we see him miss that goal in the first quarter, running into an open goal. I don't think you get an easier shot at the big sticks this year for Lachie Schultz, and he did go and convert a set shot shortly after. But it's just a bit of a trend I've seen in his game this season, guys. We don't often see 2 or 3 goals straight kicked by Lachie Schultz. It's 1 goal 1, 1 goal 2, maybe 1 on the full. And it's just starting to, I guess, get a little bit frustrating seeing him in front of goal, Nico.
It hasn't just been this year either, unfortunately, whether he's been performing well or poorly in other areas of the ground since he joined the club. He just has had very few games, Jack, where he's been able to be consistent in front of the big sticks. And while we praise him for so much of the work he does off the ball, sometimes you just need him to be that guy that can kick a winning score for us. And he unfortunately just hasn't done that too many times.
Yeah, well, unlike a Jamie Elliott, boys, where he's going to be the target the whole night, you don't feel like we go to shooter that often. So his opportunities to hit the scoreboard come from his pressure and come from corralling the opposition defenders. And when it does stand out a lot when he's not kicking goals, because that is sort of his avenue to goal, if that makes sense. So yes, one to watch, and again probably very similar to some sentiments we had in 2024 when he first came over. That was the frustration. If you just you just got to kick those. I think we said, the amount of times we said that in 2024 was ridiculous. Anyway, the pie that caught my eye this week was Isaac Quainer. I made a bit of a point on last week's pod about him needing to lift, and it just felt like this week, for whatever reason, the shackles were released a bit. It's like we got the Isaac Quainer of old, playing with a lot more confidence. Obviously still many sort of one-on-ones or many moments you could probably pick out that still isn't quite vintage Q, but after the start to this year that he's had, I feel like in a big game up there against a really tough opposition, he really lifted for mine and wanted to give him, again, stay on a positive note like Marcus, wanted to give him a shout out.
Well, not playing on the wings, a good start.
Yeah, well, that helps. Playing in your position helps, yeah.
And he was one of the only two pies to receive coaches' votes as well today, so well done to IQ. You're right, Marcus. This was a bit of a difficult one because no one necessarily stood out from a Collingwood point of view. But when you look back at the game and how it played out and the factors that led towards its result, there's only one man I could go to, and it's unfortunate, but it was Oscar Steen, and it was more his absence rather than, well, I guess in both ways, what he was doing to try and quell Brodie Grundy. I mean, still Grundy was dominant up until Oscar's injury, but he still managed 6 clearances, 3 inside 50s, a few score involvements and a couple of marks before he did go down with that ACL, which it's hard for me to shake off this one. You obviously never like to see any player go down with an injury like that, but for Oscar, who was just starting to get a good run at it, who became a revelation for our team and allowed us to play with a different game style that was so free and gave our midfielders first use and created opportunity. He was a presence inside forward 50. He was a good mark around the ground, alleviated some of the workload for Darcy Cameron. To see him have an injury like that really hurt, and obviously it was detrimental in a way to how this game panned out. But looking towards the long term, seeing as this was his 4th year on the list, as I said, his first genuine crack at it, and now he's going to miss the rest of the year, likely a little bit of next season as well. I just really hope this doesn't stunt his development too much going forward, because he is going to be a pivotal member of our team in the near future, and it's just not an injury you like to see. But the obvious was obviously once he went down, was going to make it very hard for us to gain ascendancy in the ruck, and credit to Brodie Grundy. You can only play who you're up against. He was still, the best on ground as given as well with the medal. So I'm feeling for Oscar. We wish you all the best in your recovery, of course. But this is one that stung a little bit.
And short-term and long-term consequences here. Obviously, in the game, we were playing guys against Brodie Grundy that he was treating like 10-year-olds in the ruck there. It's pretty hard to watch in the second half. But, look, I'm absolutely shattered for the young fella. I would say he's our best young talent beyond Nick Dacos, if you can call Nick young still after 100 games. But in terms of that crop coming through, Jack and I were just chatting off air that we don't have a lot of guys that have come in high draft picks in recent times, and Steenie is one of those guys, but clearly has done his apprenticeship in the VFL and shown signs as soon as he entered. What really hurts me, Nico, is knowing that left knee that he's injured through an ACL tear is his jumping leg, and we talk about his vertical leap and what he really brought to the table with the new rules. It's that ability to get first use and be creative with the hit outs at the centre bounce. His stoppage work will develop over time as he puts on size. So is he going to be able to, like a Jeremy Howe, get back to the heights that we saw Jeremy before he did his knee some years ago now? Like, remember the speckers he was taking on Tom McDonald on the members wing there, the G Jacko is fantastic. I don't think Howie's ever quite got to those heights again. So I just hope that with a bit of youth on his side, Oscar Steen is able to return in the next season or two, showing us why he can be a premier ruck in the competition.
Could be mistaken here. Is this not his second ACL, boys?
Steenie.
For Steen. I could be mistaken, but I've got a feeling that he might have come in and then had to have rehabbed a big injury like an ACL before, but I could be wrong. If I am right, I am incredibly worried about that because we hear it so many times. There's obviously the very storied and highlighted examples like an Alex Johnson and many others and Dan Hannabury's another one who do knees and then just repeatedly can't, get themselves back to, as you said, mate, 100% fitness and never quite the players they were. I just, again, I hope I'm wrong, but I was so deflated at that time because I feel like Steen's inclusion in this side has been such a turning point or was such a turning point when he first came into our season and even just how we looked at it. It was finally, you said, mate, a breath of fresh air from a crop of player that we really don't have, right throughout our list, or it's a bit of a rarity. And to come out, see him dominate the game the way he did and just see like this, again, breath of fresh air, it was so good. And now to see him go down with a long-term injury, which is probably the worst injury to go down with in the AFL, is very, very disheartening. So big shout out to Steenie. Fingers crossed that he can be back out there sooner rather than later. But we do know that these things can unfortunately have a much longer term effect than just a year.
I'm just trying to find that info for you, to be honest, because I know that he's obviously had some injury setbacks. While I continue to look for it, is the short-term solution going back to just having DC one out in the ruck? Do we see an Illaru Smith gain an opportunity? He was in the best for Collingwood's VFL, and we get to that a little bit later. Of course, do we see a Bryn Teakle get picked up in the mid-season draft who's currently doing some work for us in the VFL side? I mean, what do you try and do? Because unfortunately, with DC, he's coming off an injury and a syndesmosis one at that, which is not exactly, I believe so, which is not exactly one that would see him come back anytime soon at full health. So, what's the solution in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that if Illaru Smith can put together some VFL form that shows us he's at the level, then that will be an option in the back half of the year. I think that while we don't know where we really sit, it's starting to probably look like we might round out the top 10 then feature in the peloton throughout this season. And Oscar Steen is a huge blow to that. We saw the change in our dynamic from the centre bouncers as soon as he come in, and we know that DC is starting to labour a bit more and perhaps those ruck rules don't suit him as much. So I just think that if we get to a point where we can start to blood some of these young guys, Illaru Smith, even though he's relatively untried and maybe is a little bit premature in getting a debut this season. Without Oscar Steen there, we need to blood guys who are going to be featuring in this squad post Darcy Cameron and post Jack Crisp and post Jordan De Goey at some point. And I just reckon we've got to fast track the development of a few. So I can't really comment too much on great games he's had in the VFL when we've done the VFL report in recent seasons, and form needs to be considered. But I think that Darcy Cameron becomes more susceptible to another injury, actually, Nico, if we play him as the lone ruckman. Dan McStay was competitive in that last term, and I thought he brought a little bit to the table, but it certainly is a worry. Jacko, your thoughts?
Massive worry in the ruck stocks. I think I said it might have even been in our chat on the Friday night, boys, that Ned Long, we've seen him go in there and take the ruck before, and obviously with the absence of Darcy Cameron, not ideal scenario to be losing a ruckman, but Ned Long was putting his hand up as the nominated ruckman, and then Dan McStay was saying, no, I'll come in, I'll take it. And then Ned Long was waving him off. And then you said it before, mate, Brodie Grundy was just picking him up like he was a child and throwing him to the side. But look, I don't know. I'm in a bit of an impasse of this because I feel like someone like Oscar Steen, when he was selected to come into the ones, was absolutely belting the door down. Like he was dominating the VFL. There was no reason not to pick him. And I just wonder, what sort of waters we're treading into if we're only, blooding blokes in these big key position types like rucks and forwards. I mean, I know Charlie West is coming through and has had some stellar VFL form, hence his selection in on the weekend. But I don't know. I worry about if we do, throw an Illaru Smith to the fire and about, if that is good. But again, as Marcus said, there's going to come a point where it becomes in this season where it becomes a necessity to keep us afloat over the next few years.
Just found Oscar Steen dislocated toe in 2024, which meant he was ruled out for all bar one game of that season. So you're on the money, but a toe rather than knee, which is probably good news if we can use that terminology in this context.
Best of a bad scenario, I guess. And then, so low-grade syndesmosis for Darcy Cameron with that ankle. So
they can be longer term, those types of injuries, but
can be, but Fly seemed confident it would only be a week. When spoken about it last week. So it's going to have to be. It's going to have to come back in some way, shape or form, particularly this week against the Eagles. Looking at this game in a bit more detail again, it was a weird type of match and there's probably not a heap of factors to sort of delve into. But one that I think what made me so proud of this side is that first quarter in particular was just the pressure we had on the ball carrier. I mean, Sydney are a team that love to use the corridor, that love to chip those kicks inside and find their way from A to B, pretty much going straight down the middle, as I said. But we blocked the corridor, we forced them wide on each occasion, and we didn't give them enough time to dispose the ball either correctly or efficiently, which allowed us to win the footy back, score off turnover, which is just something we probably haven't seen too much of throughout the 2026 season. It was always going to be tough to sustain it, but just knowing that we were capable of doing that to a side of the ilk of Sydney was definitely one of the more pleasing parts of Friday night.
At the SCG too, we know it's ping pong there, given the short length of the ground and pretty narrow too for a footy field. So I was really happy with the team defence in that first half. Dan Houston is one that comes to mind that was really holding up very well and making it difficult for Sydney to score alongside Isaac Quaynor, but there was also buy-in from the younger guys as well. And I don't know if it was the smaller ground that allowed them to not be as exposed as much, but I found that guys like Angry Anderson and Will Hayes at times, there's probably others I could rattle off that I can't remember right now, but everyone seemed to be set and holding their position, which made it really difficult, as you mentioned, Nico, for the Swans to get their forward handball game going. I thought we blocked guys like Nick Blakey very well in that first half. Clearly, whatever changes were made in the locker room by the Swans allowed them to open up the game a bit more and utilise some of their strengths with the ball speed and getting goals in quick succession against us later in that third term and into the fourth. But overall, a really good performance for that first half. And it was the fact that, as you mentioned before, Jack, that there was guys who clearly were out on their feet by the end of the game, but just found a way as the sort of that baby pies brigade to stay in the mix.
Yeah, really, really pleasing, Nico, overall. I think, again, it's nice to know we're capable of it, but now sort of looking back in hindsight, it's kind of frustrating that it takes, a game for you to be completely written off in, much like we were in the Hawthorn game, before we see this type of effort and intent, and that's what it comes down to. I think the biggest thing for me, as we've spoken at length about this before, was it's blokes like Jack Chris, Steele's side bottom. Pat Lipinski, when he's in the side, I know he didn't play on Friday night, I don't believe, but you can talk about Shooter and Beau McCreary and their ability to apply pressure all day long, but it's when these other types step up and really buy into the team defense that we are just a much, much better side. There's no doubt about it. It's the way we like to play. It's our barometer factor. Whenever we're doing that well, we're usually in games up to our neck, and it was clearly on display in that first half especially. And I just think probably Sydney, and that's in the second half, probably got into the game a little bit more, got their hands on the footy at centre bounce a little bit more freely, and that's what got them going. They are a class outfit, and there's a reason why they're at the top end of the ladder. So, look, if there's anything we want to see for the rest of the year, mate, it's, come out in most games with that kind of pressure, that kind of intent. And it's not just the blokes that we expect from it every week. It's everyone.
Absolutely. We had 8 players that had 50 games or less experience, which is unheard of in the last few years. Is there anyone in particular that you saw a little bit of on Friday night that you felt, okay, I can see a type of future here? No, I'm not talking necessarily about someone that's burst onto the scene that's been unsighted over the last year. Obviously, we've been able to blood some youth throughout the season, but is there something, or was there something, or is there someone in particular from Friday night that you felt, okay, he held his own against a really quality outfit in a tight contest? Maybe there's an opportunity there to play him for much of the year and potentially not have him out of the senior side regardless.
Yeah, a few, in fact, and I'll just rattle off a couple. Yep. Charlie West had a couple of moments where he stood up early in that first term, took a big mark, went back and kicked it. There's a couple other times just where he's getting to contests and just seems like a real old-fashioned forward, and I like the idea of him coming in and almost being that Brody Myercheck replacement once he's developed a bit more size and a tank. And then Will Hayes, I actually think he could be a 200-game player for us. He's got the footy smarts. He's clearly got to put on some size as well. But both of these guys excite me slotting into this forward line in the next 2 to 3 seasons and owning their spot. Jamie Elliott will obviously clear out soon. Who knows how long Dan McStay will be around for after his contract runs out. So I see opportunity in that forward line for a big and a small to come in and really make it their own. Are we going to end up trading for a big key forward from a rival club? Hopefully we need one, but I just really am excited by those two guys. Anyone for you, Jack?
Yeah, for sure. Echo the sentiments on Will Hayes, especially. I mean, just any time he's in this side, especially over the last month or so of footy, he hasn't put a foot wrong. I think he's very stiff. I don't think he played against Geelong from memory. He was one of the sort of first ones to find himself out of that team and straight back in this week and absolutely deserves his flowers, as Marcus said. We've spent a fair bit of time talking about these two already, but Angry Anderson, again, not a game where he explodes off the stat sheet or anything like that, but just looks comfortable at the level. And a few times late in the game where the heat of the AFL contest got a bit much for him, I thought, maybe just not quite quick enough, but that will come with experience. And the other one was Rowan Steele.
Yeah.
A couple of ones, not quite finishing off his opportunities at points in the game where against the good sides, you really need to nail the door shut there. However, just again, his running power on full display throughout the whole game was really lively, really bubbly, getting himself in and around the ball. And again, looks comfortable at the level. So looking bright in that sense.
A good game from Roan as well after a couple of quieter matches.
Yep.
So nice to see him get back a little bit of form. I thought the same. Definitely Charlie West has got a future in this team, at least for this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Kept a close eye on Ed Allen. I thought he was okay. But again, there's just times where you feel like he's just not making the right decisions by hand or by foot. He had some clearances. He had some tackles, but I still think the jury's out on Ed, unfortunately.
What do you think happens with him at the end of the season? Is he trade bait?
Is he out of contract? Let me have a look.
It's fine. It's following that Finn McRae, Callum, Tyler Brown mould, isn't it? Of just like too good to play in the twos. When he gets his opportunity, that gets played out of position or just can't quite, have that real breakout game like everyone hopes he can.
Yeah, he's out of contract.
Yeah, because there has been some speculation about whether he's the type to get floated for a return home to the WA. And I do wonder if, does he get enough time in this side without Pendles and Crispy and Steele at times having clogged up the midfield rotations to really show us his stuff? Because he just seems, there's the one part of his game that seems to be lacking for him to take that step from being an almost to a regular fixture in the team, does seem to be how he makes decisions when he's in the clinches.
Yep.
And if he's going to be playing a midfield type of game, he's going to have to get good at that, whether he's inside or an outside user.
Yep.
So I just think that he's an interesting watch for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I certainly think so. Team defence, I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to. No Darcy Moore as well, and we spoke about whether the team defence was actually going to look a little bit better.
Looked way better.
In his absence. We gave away 71 inside 50s on Friday night and conceded just 81 points. And that came from multiple contributors throughout the night. I thought, as you already mentioned about Isaac Quainer, Jeremy Howe I thought was very good, very efficient by foot. Billy Frampton had his moments as well, which I thought was serviceable. So they're standing up well, and it's been something that we've been able to hold our head high on throughout the whole year. That's probably been the one consistent part to the season. And to keep a high-scoring side like Sydney, who we know can kick goals in quick succession in matches, to just 81 points, I thought was pretty impressive.
Oh, and it was nice for a change not to see Charlie Curnow rip us a new one. I feel like anytime he
when
went
he was
out
just
there,
touching the ball and they gave him a free kick for marking.
Exactly right. Yeah, you can go up and if it looks good enough, Nico, they'll pay it, especially for Charlie. But look, I echo your sentiments, mate. Really good, really strong night from the big boys and indeed our back six all night. And again, as Marcus just said before, and you led him to that say it, was just, do we actually look better without Darcy Moore back there at the moment, which is, concerning in far more ways than one.
For sure, particularly when it's the captain, and we know that shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't even be having that conversation about any captain, you would hope, in the AFL. Let alone our own club. So that is a concern. Just some other notes on the game though, Nico. I feel like we did a really good job at the clearance. And even though we looked like we're getting dominated, and we were in that second half by Brodie Grundy alone, I think 34 disposals and 46 hit-outs suggests that they had an extra midfielder running around and a ruckman. It is laughable, those sort of numbers. But on the stat sheet, we still did hold up at the centre clearance. We still did hold up statistically at the stoppage. So I think that also really helped us allow our team defence to be set, because when we've been murdered at the centre clearance in this season and others, I just think that has on some occasions allowed our defence to rebound and score from turnover, but against opposition this season where we're not as good, I think it's a bit more of a risk.
And all of that, despite the fact that Nick Dacos spent a lot of time inside forward 50,
the other talking point,
which is a positive. We're not having to rely on him as such.
Still had 28 though, which is I thought I didn't see the stats until today, and I was shocked to see that, because watching the game on the night, it seemed like he was very, very quiet. Obviously, again, first quarter, very bubbly, and it feeds into our conversation that we kind of had about, is he carrying something maybe? Can you rest him up forward? We got a good
That
look.
suggests to me that it is.
Has to be.
Yeah, has to be. But capable of playing up forward, which was one that we spoke about, probably about a month ago, after the Carlton game, potentially, about, his ability to, rest up forward, and that goes to show that he can absolutely do it. So, I'll watch again on Nick Dacos.
That's basically you saying cop that to anyone that disagree with you about it a few weeks ago.
Which was me. No, I did. I said I wasn't sure about whether or not throwing him deep forward, which is what we did on Friday night. We threw him one out in the square. And interesting to see as well, it'll be a one to watch as well how opposition teams go about defending that. So, they obviously opted for James Jordan to go down there and follow him to the square. Some teams will just back their system defense in to deal with whoever's down there at any given time. So, yeah, interesting one, because I wasn't sure whether or not, given his size and just his sort of, general abilities, which are amazing, more than they're not, but whether or not he'd be able to sort of play that forward roll. But that goal, I almost threw the TV off the wall. That got me up and about. That second goal he kicked when he wheels around on the left. So another string to Nick Dacos's bow, Nico.
100%. The only other note I had from our game was, I think, a key part to the second half that I think wasn't probably cited too much was the wet conditions once they kicked in. I just feel like we were way too fumbly in the second half. And I know it makes it hard when the weather is as such, but it just felt like Sydney were a lot more cleaner in the pivotal moments than we were, and that prevented us from giving ourselves a real opportunity for kicking a winning score. Of course, aside from the fact that we kicked, 1-7 in the second quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it plagues us, that goal kicking once again. I think we were talking about 0 goals 6 last week and 1-7 this week in the second term. It's just not at the level, unfortunately, regardless of the conditions. But I thought that the greasing conditions actually made it harder for the Swans too to capitalise on a few link-up plays throughout the match, and really they just ran over the top of us. We'll just say it single-handedly due to Brodie Grundy, which hurts as an ex-Collingwood man, but I still love him and the way he goes about it, just not for the Swans against us. But yeah, look, errant goal kicking, they say bad goal kicking's bad footy at the end of the day, and the Swans were similar to us, but I just felt there was some critical moments early in that game where we could have had a bigger lead on the board, but didn't. And ultimately, that was our demise by the end of the game.
And the biggest one was that Rowan Steele miss for I mentioned that a little bit before.
That was our best play of the game.
Yeah, exactly right. Against the run of the momentum of the game at the time, Sydney coming, looking like they were just going to run over the top of us, and to have that play in that moment, we just needed to nail that goal to really say, no, we're up for this. And not to say, look, again, they were immensely proud of our ability to look like we were probably going to lose that game by 3 or 4 goals at 3/4 time, and to then look like we could even win it late in the last quarter. However, against the really good sides, you just can't give them any sort of sniff. And I'm not sitting here going, oh, well, we missed 3 goals from 15 metres out and they're up, even I would have kicked them. But also, again, against the real top sides like Sydney, you just have to make every post a winner. And again, we're talking about a Collingwood side not doing that for the 3rd week in a row, Nico. Oh, no, for the 2nd week in a row. We're good against Hawthorn.
We love it. Votes, please.
Yes, I've gone 1 to Jeremy Howe. I thought he held up very well for the 2nd week in the row, a real shining light in defence. 2 votes have gone to Isaac Quaynor, much more comfortable at that half-back role, rebounding really well with over 500 metres gained, I believe. And 3 votes have gone to Nick.
Yeah, very similar for me, Nico. Instead of Howard getting my 1, I gave it to Geordie De Goey, who I thought, look, and probably more for his body of work over this really tough month of football. He's been, one of the ones we've been able to rely on. Again, high disposal count, really busy on Friday night. So gave 1 to him, 2 to IQ, and 3 to Nick.
Very nice. Very similar. So How got 1, Nick got 2, IQ got 3. Nick's 5 votes clear as well in the Coaches MVP award as well.
Did you get coaches' votes?
You got 5.
Okay.
You got 5 and IQ got 2. So they were the only 2 Collingwood players to receive votes from the coaches, which is nice. We still got SpeakPie and guess the crowd to come. But before we get to that, we've got to talk about what's going to be taking place this Saturday. We're very excited about this. It's been something that's been brewing for a long time, and the celebrations have already begun for Scott Pendlebury, who, of course, breaks, if you've been living under a rock, breaks the record for most games played in VFL AFL history this Saturday when the Pies take on the Eagles at the MCG. Already some press and some media getting underway today with all the 400 gamers at the MCG, so there's already a lot being done. His merch, as you can see, is already out and about, so there's a lot happening with Scotty Pendlebury, but just wanted to take a moment to do what many other media outlets are failing to do, and that's to recognise and celebrate the actual accomplishment that this is, because it's simply extraordinary what this man has done. He hasn't limped to 433 games. He has been an out-and-out professional, a superstar right from game one, right through to what's going to take place this Saturday. We've done this podcast since 2019. We've been here for his 300th, his 350th, his 400th, and we're now getting his 433rd. And you just run out of words to describe what Pendles means to this football club, because it's been nothing short of outstanding and brilliant and all of those words put to it. But I'm just so glad that in front of hopefully 95,000 people at the G Marcus, we all get the chance to sit back and enjoy what Scott Pendlebury's brought to this football club.
Yeah, and what a privilege to enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at an age where it's always going to be a cherished memory until we take our last breaths on planet Earth, boys. It really is that type of occasion. I think if you look back over history at how long it's taken each athlete to surpass the previous one, with Boomer and then Burgoyne and then Tucker, whatever the order is, like it seems like it's getting that little bit shorter as the next one comes through. So maybe this record will be broken in our lifetime with how sports science is improving the longevity of athletes around the globe. But let's assume it's not. Let's assume that this record will never be broken because he's still got footy ahead of him, and we'll see what the management strategy is like post-game record being broken. But it is just a true honour to have watched this guy throughout our entire lifetimes, bursting onto the scene and coming second in the BNF in his second season, and then doing things like winning Anzac Day medals very early and showing up in big finals, and then the Norm Smith going on to captain the side for as many games as any Collingwood player ever has. And then I think going through that difficult down period through the Bucks era, and then being able to come out the other end in 2023, showing up in the final term with what he wanted, which was that next premiership to really add to the CV. Got very close last season, unfortunately does the calf in the prelim, but now he arrives at what is the true bow on him being the greatest Collingwood player of all time, and foreseeably up there with the greats of the game, Jack.
Yeah, having conversations with mates, this year especially, there's an argument to be made. I think he's absolutely Collingwood's greatest player of all time. There's no doubt about that now, but I think there could be an argument to be made that he's one of, if not the greatest AFL player of all time. Because yes, you can look back at Gary Ablett's and the Dusties of the world and all this, but for a bloke to be dominating and having as much influence on games for as long as this bloke has and as late as this guy has, I don't think that's anything to be sneezed at. But a couple of hard acts to follow there, boys. I think you've nailed it just about. But I will say, Marcus said it's an absolute honour to go to the footy and watch this bloke play most weeks, and couldn't have said it better myself. For me, at the age I am, Scott Pendlebury has been there every week for my whole entire Collingwood active watching life. So it'll be a sad day when he does go, but to see him, achieve this, to think back on all the different versions of Collingwood that he's been a part of and played in and thrived in. We talk about that Bucks period being a down period for the club, but I think that might have been the same period where he won 5 Copeland trophies or 3 out Copeland trophies or something like that during that sort of 2013 to 2018 period. So look, it's such a privilege, such an honour. We're so lucky that we have got to watch him. We're so blessed that he landed at our club, and I just want to say thank you to Pendles as well, because you don't get to something like this without making an immense amount of sacrifice, whether it's either socially or family, or sacrifices to your body, not enjoying a beer, or not enjoying some certain foods, and just really being stringent, in which we know Pendles is the absolute utmost professional, and he's done that for 19 years now?
20.
Yeah.
21, I reckon.
Yeah, ridiculous. It's just crazy. So to Scott Pendlebury, to his family, thank you so, so much for everything that you've done for the Collingwood Footy Club. And we are just incredibly blessed, and we're really looking forward to celebrating this milestone with him. It was a great occasion, his 400th. I remember we all went together, boys, and with Lukey, and that felt like a big moment then as well. And I can imagine this will feel huge as well.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because we've all experienced fortunately, some incredible Collingwood moments and games throughout our lifetime. What do you think Saturday? Where do you think Saturday is going to rank in terms of those moments? Because it's a game that doesn't have too many consequences. We're playing a side that have been down the bottom for the last few years, albeit had a really good win on Sunday, which I'm low-key happy about. It means the pressure's off a little bit. But it's going to be one that doesn't necessarily have a result pending on it. That's not going to have the expectation of the media, of what Collingwood are going to bring to the table. It's not going to be tactical as per se. We're going to be bringing in some experienced heads back into the side. What do you think? It's hard to say now without being there, but what do you think being there will mean to you as a Collingwood supporter, knowing that we've had the privilege of watching premierships, big finals, Anzac days? This seems very unique in a way, and I just wonder what it's going to mean to all of us Collingwood supporters once we're sitting there at the ground watching this man run out for the 433rd time.
I think just the respect coming from Collingwood fans and the broader AFL community. I imagine there will be a number of neutral supporters who will show up and do their best to support what is a historic moment for the game, and just to be amongst it in terms of how it ranks. Yes, it's just a home and away game against the Eagles, but I think regardless of irrespective of the opposition, it just sits to me up there with his grand final performance in 2023. That was as good as I've seen Pendles play in the flesh. And so to see a man walk out there with the golden number 10 and stuff you if you don't like it, because I'm all about it. Yeah, look, it's a bit of mayo, I know, but it deserves to stand out. And I think that he has an aura about him, and so many players at the club have said that he has that presence when he walks around, just because of how much greatness he carries day to day. And that'll be on show at the MCG on Saturday afternoon, and it'll just look like a guy is running out there with, I guess, a golden aura about him, not just the number 10 on his back. That's how I think it's going to feel, Nico, and whenever he gets the ball, there'll be a bloody loud cheer.
Oh, yeah, if I imagine if he kicks a goal, it'll be huge. He almost got one in that 400th game, and we all thought it went through, but not to be. But fingers crossed that can happen on Saturday afternoon. I look, Nico, I think this for me is a moment for Scott Pendlebury just to really lap up. I feel like he's been slept on. Obviously Collingwood supporters, we love Pendles. We know his accolades. We know how good he's been for a long period of time. But I feel like the AFL community has slept on just how great this man has been for a long, long period of time. And this is his chance to really soak that in. It's real. I think it's going to be a big chance for the AFL community to step back and realise, just how bloody lucky we all are, not just Collingwood supporters, but the uniqueness of his play with the basketball background and all that, and how we may never see another player like Scott Pendlebury who can slow down time, etc. So I think this is just going to be a massive moment. For me, where does it rank amongst Scott Pendlebury moments? We all have our favourite goals or our favourite passages of play. I think it'll be hard to go past for me seeing him and Steel side bottom stand up in front of the cheer squad holding a premiership cup in 2023. That was pretty bloody huge. But again, I think this will be one that you look back in retrospect when he does retire as, oh my God, what a point in time that was. Just like I just kind of am doing now with that game, that 400th game, the 2023 grand final. It'd just be another chapter in the Scott Pendlebury story that we should just look back and go, gee, we were lucky.
He said in the Herald Sun today that he'd be keen to go on should he be playing good enough football. If you had to make a call right now, do you
Yes.
see him playing
Yes.
in 2027?
We need him. We're so poor without him.
Yeah, that's true. And in terms of how much he gets rested into the future, Nico, I've already opened the discussion on this pod, and I'm sure others have too, about the benefits that come from having him around the club. I think Barry Carp illustrated that really well in a message to all Collingwood, or to Scott Pendlebury, released on the Pies website. Go and have a look at that if you haven't already. But he just made the point that Scott's professionalism over such a long period of time has created a legacy for those that are currently playing with him and for those that are yet to play for Collingwood, because you know that coming into this club, he will be celebrated for years after he retires. Will we see him back in a coaching capacity at some point? Hope so. Love to. But at the end of the day, he is the type of guy who has set such an immaculate standard, as I say, for what it means to be an athlete. And you can just hope that if each player that walks through the gate takes just a slither of the professionalism that Scott has shown, that Collingwood will be a better place for football for a long time to come.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's say this all the time. He'd be worth his weight in gold, Nico, to have around for at least another year, even if, he doesn't play that 20 to 15 games and it's more like the 10, just having him around the club, his presence permeates throughout the whole place, whether he's actively playing or not. And I love that point about, even for the players that aren't going to be able to be on a list with Pendles, his legacy and his professionalism will echo throughout the Collingwood walls for a long, long, long time. That doesn't just go away when it will not, help not having him there, but it also will not disappear overnight because it's not something to be sneezed at.
Absolutely. Yep. We just can't wait. I cannot wait for Saturday. It feels like our grand final.
Christmas.
It does feel like that. It feels like if there's one bit of joy we're going to get out of the rest of this season.
Just bloody win.
There's a long way to go, but I hope, I think if you're a Collingwood supporter and you're umming and ahhing about getting down there on Saturday, make the effort. This is a point in our club's history that we just need to absolutely celebrate.
I was meant to be going to the circus with my partner on Saturday, and I had to say that Cirque du Soleil will not be happening this year, unfortunately.
How'd that conversation go?
She was actually very understanding.
Oh, that's
so
good.
yeah, even she as a non-football person understands the significance of this moment. So
might as well bring her along too.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, we can't wait for Saturday, and there will be many times that we recognise that throughout the week as well, which we look forward to. Let's get some SpeakPie. We've got a few voice memos to get through from Friday night. Thank you to everybody that sends them in. We really do appreciate everyone that takes the time to send through their thoughts from the weekend that was. A few interesting ones as well to keep an eye out for throughout Friday nights. As I get it up, do you feel like actually I don't think we touched too much on it. So just briefly before I get these up, Jack, you mentioned at the start of the pod how this was your worst nightmare, having an honourable loss against Sydney. What do you think the ramifications are for having a result like that for the rest of the season? Obviously, we're probably going to bypass what takes place this week with the celebrations that are about to unfold. But what does it make it any clearer about where you see this side heading into the rest of the year?
Well, in a short answer, no. It doesn't make it any clearer about how I feel about where we're at and what at the end of this season might look like for the Collingwood Footy Club. But I think these kind of wins, if you take this month of footy as anything to go by, having these type of honourable losses can paper over some serious cracks that you get exposed in games like against Geelong, where we just got scored against so freely, got smashed out of the middle. And it very, very similar tones to, what we went through in 2024. We had a few of these games as well. Up in Sydney was one of them late in the season, where, you don't quite, you don't lose any face, but you certainly, you don't look like you're going to win that game for a large majority of it. And then you go out and play next week and get pumped by 50 points like we did against the Cats. So, I don't know, Nico. That's what I'm worried about. But, I can imagine if you're a Craig McRae or a coach at Collingwood, you're looking at this from glass half full. Like, you're looking at the Hawthorn game and the Sydney games going, boys, this is how we want to play more often.
Yeah.
Do that.
Makes it pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, let's see if the fans shared the same sentiments. We'll go through a few here. Let's start here with Matt. So thank you very much. Before we get back into it, a quick shout out to Revo Fitness, because honestly, $9.69 a week for a gym membership is just ridiculous value. And I feel like more people need to know about it. No lock-in contracts, no hidden fees, just rock up and train. Free weights, cardio, and functional training. It's all there 24/7. So you've got no excuse not to give it a go. I feel like there'd be a lot of players that would have some big egos at the gym. Who's one that would like to just trump everyone with just how much they lift?
I reckon maybe not how much they lift, but Scotty Pendlebury, I reckon he still gets it done, Nico. So he might be a shining star down at Revo.
And if you want to go full send, maybe like Pendles, $3 extra a week gets you unlimited Reformer Pilates, massage chairs, and eVault body scans. $3 extra, that's it. They've got clubs all over the country, so there's likely one near you. Head over to revofitness.com.au, that's revofitness.com.au, or head to your nearest club.
Fellas, my God, mate. I'm about 4 or 5 beers deep. I don't even know. I got work at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. 1 goal 7 second quarter. It's always going to hurt you. I'm not going to deny we didn't lose a game from that. But fuck me, Dad. It must be beach season in New South Wales, because as soon as we laid a hand on them, I reckon the umpires thought we were going to fuck up their tan and they gave them a free kick. Anyway, I've said my piece. See you, Pies Nation boys. Go Pies as always. See you at SP433.
Is that a talking point, the umpiring?
Oh, I didn't really pay too much attention to it.
Minus 10 in free kicks usually warrants some sort of discussion.
I mean, we had some inexperienced ruckmen there that were giving Brody Grundy a few sodas, but anyway.
It felt like, though, that to his point, that there were like, not that the free kicks were there for us, but it was like very ticky touchwood for them, and then when it was going the other way, it wasn't. They weren't quite as generous to us, Nico.
No,
probably not a talking point for me.
Not this time around, at least. Patrick's next.
Yeah. So why are we just losing after just massive leads? Tough loss. No ruckman, but still not solid with Dan Houston's performances. Not too bad.
Dan Houston might be a bit more of a talking point. Not an ideal game, I felt. I mean, you mentioned in our group chat, Marcus, better in the defensive part, but seems to be shirking a little bit for some contests that are not to my liking.
Yeah, unfortunately. First half, great. In fact, like as good as I've seen him defensively for some time. Second half, really the wheels started to fall off. And I think, unfortunately, he was the bloke who got caught in that tackle by James Robot right at the end of the match. It was our final potential 4-0 forward, and he was caught cold. So it was a sour ending to the game for Dan.
Yeah, unfortunately, just had to kick it. It was just a second.
Had to get rid of it.
Just had to second away. An old favourite of ours is back. This is Marcus from Denver.
Yeah, g'day lads. Marcus from Denver here. I said I was going to let other people have a go this year, but just thought I'd check in after this game because I think we let one slide today. Definitely should have had that win. But just wanted to raise an interesting point since they shift the games from the ANZ to the SCG. Because I feel like ANZ was always a bit of a happy hunting ground for us, except for that 2012 prelim. But just ran the numbers, fellas, and I thought this might be interesting. So they shifted to the SCG in 2015. The Swans are 8-2 in all of our matchups at that ground. 4 games we've lost by a goal or less, and the 2 times we won were by 7 and 1 point. So it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter where we are on the ladder at any given time. It's always a cracking matchup at that ground, but the Pies just seem to come out on the losing end most of the time, which is really unfortunate. So I reckon we put a petition in to shift it back to ANZ Stadium because it seemed to go better for us over there. Anyway, fellas, hooroo. See ya. Bye.
Very left field.
Yeah, it was always a funny ground to watch footy at because it's just such a big stadium and it always looked, it was Sydney Collingwood for a reason. We used to still turn up and pack it out a bit, but gee whiz, it still looked empty.
Yeah, I don't think that ground would pass safety concerns. Remember when Roughhead got his back torn to shreds by those bolts? And it's also a prick of a ground and a place to get to. It's right over across the road from GWS's stadium. It's impossible.
Homebush?
If you've done it, the Olympic Park there. So, and then the SCG, talk about size, is the complete opposite to that. It's like when you're watching it on TV, it looks like they're playing at a local footy's second ground. It's that small, but I didn't know that. I didn't know we'd lost so many. I thought we might have pinched a few, but now, you rack your brain over. And the Daniel Wells game in 2019 and then, of course, the Will Hoskin-Elliott one in 2017. Only 2 times we've won at the SCG. That's crazy.
And maybe against the D's for Bucks' last match, just as a real left field COVID fixture.
Oh, yeah. But that was the Melbourne game. That's right. Yeah. Couple more to finish. I will tell you now. Irvin has stuck to his word from last week.
Oh, he's not in.
He has not given us a speak pie. So just a heads up, we won't be hearing from him. But next up is Rob. So thank you, Rob.
Yeah, look, disappointing to lose to Sydney on Friday night, but it was a game we weren't expected to win. It was not our best side being put on the park. We had some big outs and we lost our ruckman partway through the game. There's a lot of noise being made about Pendlebury's management and missing matches that we could have won. I'm kind of like, don't listen to those people. We weren't expected to do anything this year. We are exactly where we were expected to be, which was mid-table and on the slide. But we're actually showing something in these games. We've come close to beating Hawthorn, come close to beating Sydney, come close to beating Freo. So there's a lot to like about what's going on right now. The thing that I really like about what's going on right now is that some of these young lads that have waited there for their opportunity are actually getting a chance to prove themselves. We're actually getting to see some of those lads in action and how they are going to perform under pressure when the hard heads of Pendlebury and Sidebottom disappear, and eventually Howe as well. I do have...
Hold on. It comes back. Give it a second.
...in that space, but there is a bright future ahead if we just see ourselves through this and get some support for Nick in the middle as well. Another quick, dynamic player. So we'll see. There's a lot of the season to go. I'm not unhappy with where we're at now, given what was predicted, what was expected from myself, our supporters, and other supporters and commentators.
Very strong from Rob.
I like that take. I reckon that almost sums up our season to date, as well as I've heard from any of the Speak Pies. And for the people who, like you're the man who owned that shirt before you, Cone Corns, and others who have been getting lippy about Pendle's not playing, and if he's not managed, then the Pies go out and win the games where he's been rested. As Jack and I were speaking, and maybe boys have some different views, but backing up what Rob was saying is that I would love to see more games where we're forced in positions to win without Pendles there. And if it's close and we lose, there's plenty of learnings to come from those results.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that take, Nico. And I've been guilty of this a little bit on the Pendles thing and maybe just being a bit critical of us because we are so blessed as Collingwood supporters that in most seasons, we do compete. And coming off a prelim final last year, there was a lot of, conjecture. Where are we? Are we going to be up there again? Are we going to fall away? And again, couple that with all the media noise. I think that I agree with Marcus. It's one of the best takes on Collingwood that I've heard away from, the media or our discussions. That was perfect. I think that sums up exactly the sort of attitude we need to have throughout the rest of the year. Low expectations going in, as far as ladder position come the end of the year and just take it game by game basis. It's interesting point you made early on though about, we didn't put our best side out. We didn't put our best side against Hawthorn. You'd argue that the Geelong side that we put out was one of our strongest paper sides all year. And then we go up against Sydney and we don't put our best side out. With all the kids that came in for that Geelong Hawthorn game and how competitive we were, I'd argue that our best side probably doesn't look the way we think it looks. So maybe one to watch.
Well done, Rob. You're in the running for our best Speak Pie of the year. Let's finish with Colin to wrap it up.
Come on, Colin.
Hi, Pies Nations boys. Colin here. Very proud of our boys last night. They tried all night and never gave up against all the odds. A depleted side again and another injury that gave Grundy free rein to put the ball where he wanted. I think we need a dedicated skills coach as our skill level has dropped as the season has progressed. Great teams have one thing in common, continuity in all playing together. While we have an ageing list with players being managed, that won't happen, which also means that the young blokes are in and out of the side through no fault of their own. Another thing, by half-time it was obvious that bombing the ball into the forward line was not working, so why continue to do it for the remainder of the game? I can only hope that our recruiting people have got tall marking forwards in their sights come trade period. Our backs are in good shape and our mids get their hands on the ball enough. It's the forward structure and the connection to it that lets them down. Bo McCreary is not the player he has been for us the last couple of years. I hope all this Tassie talk is not affecting him. Hopefully, all our players will rise to the occasion next week for Pendle's record-breaking game. And Irving, don't dare stop calling in. Go Pies!
Oh, well, I got bad news for you, Colin, but yeah.
When Colin says you got to speak by, you got to speak by.
Yeah,
So Irving,
absolutely.
come on.
Get back.
Think-
Yeah, the Bow one's an interesting one, isn't it? Luke has some strong words for us in the group chat.
What was the pair of those words?
Oh, I just sort of said maybe he should go to Tassie.
Yeah.
But
No, I'd be shattered if he did.
Nah,
Hey,
so
but like,
do I.
I think I put him on the map last week. That caught my eye, and it's just another performance, as we say, with these middle band of players that really need to lift. They've got the experience, they're giving more opportunity in different positions. But Bo, we know him as the defensive forward. Is he the midfielder that can come in and show us a bit more in that department?
Type of player when we're flying as well. The errant kick that doesn't get snapped up like it would have when you're not as strong of a side right around the park. He's the type of player that when he's having a stinker, he really stands out. So one to watch for sure, Nico. The other point that Colin made, I wanted to highlight as well. Steel side bottom played his 350th last year against Hawthorn, I believe. And the effort and intent that we got from our players was dismal, to say at the least. We sat, I think, together that night.
Bad game.
Nico, I'm one to forget. If there's any reason, if they don't turn up for the rest of the year, if these blokes that we're talking about now, Bo McCreary's, Jack Crisps, Pat Lipinski's, all these types, you need to step up in this game, for God's sake. If you're going to just be passengers in this game, there won't be enough teams in Tassie for you to go to if they don't lift for this one. So, but God's sake, if you're going to lift, you got to lift for Pendles.
I've had Pie supporters say that they're not going to another game for the rest of the year if we lose to West Coast this week. I didn't want to go down that path, but that's okay. Thank you to everyone that got involved with our SpeakPie. Let's get straight into our guests, the crowd. The crowd was 40,627, and the person we'll be speaking to today is an actual SpeakPie regular of recent weeks. His name's Nick. And let's have a quick chat to him, courtesy of SpeakPie, of Guess the Crowd.
Hello, Nick speaking.
Nick, it's Nick from the Pies Nation podcast. How are you?
Hi, here he is. Very good, very good.
We were just saying you're a regular on our SpeakPie pretty much this year, but we didn't play your one from today because I did see that you had one come through. We thought we'd give you a chance to have a bit of an extended chat. So thank you very much for jumping on. Give us your quick summation of what took place on Friday night.
As I said in my message, the effort is there. You can see 4 quarters of solid effort. Like, they busted their gut. It's just at crucial times we drop the ball, and goal kicking is clearly one of those times where we drop the ball, where we just need it the most, and we end up kicking 1 goal 7 instead of maybe 4 goals 3 or 5 goals 2. So, yeah, I can't fault the guys in terms of the effort. It's just we just shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes.
Nick, just Jack here, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Following on from that question from Nico about, there's been so much chat this year from us, especially about where we feel week to week, about where we're at. We glass half full, glass half empty after coming in after these honourable losses or draws against Hawthorn and Sydney. Where are you at? Where's your head at as a Collingwood supporter going into almost what is the back half of season 2026? Does your mindset even change from the Sydney game from the Geelong game? It's a question that's on my mind and I can't get it off. Where are we at, mate?
Jack, it's a question that's on my mind also too, and I brought it up with my Q29 boys at the MCG in our group chat that we have. At the start of the year, look, I had relatively low expectations. I thought we could do okay, between that sort of 7th to maybe 12th. We've played some really good games. We've shown we can play good football. I mean, if we beat Freo, Hawthorn, Sydney, it sort of becomes a different conversation, doesn't it? But football's not governed by should have, could have, maybes. We didn't. So where I see us at the moment is we're middle of the pack. We're gonna beat teams around us. We're gonna beat teams below us. We might struggle still against those top tier still, the top 3 or 4. Just against those teams, you've got to have a killer instinct and you've got to make the most of your opportunities. And at various times in those big games, we just haven't.
Well said.
Good wrap, Nick. Marcus here. Now, there's a bloke named Scott Pendlebury breaking the game's record this week. I imagine you'll be in attendance with some of your crew. Can you just rattle off one or two of your favourite Scott Pendlebury performances from having the pleasure of watching him all these years?
How long have you got, boys? Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, definitely in attendance. We're attending the President's Club function this Saturday, so that'll be great with the boys. But I think there's a couple for me. There's the 2010 prelim against Geelong, where we weren't expected to win, and he just came out and just dominated, and basically took that team to a grand final, and we all know what happens after that. So that's one game that definitely sticks out. Probably another one is very recent, Anzac Day. I mean, no guy at the age of 38 should be able to do that. No. It's just, he's played 400 odd games. He's about to clock in for his pension, and he's dishing up that amazing effort. He was just clinical, clean, and it just defies belief what he's able to do at this age. So they're the two that probably stick out most recent, and one's probably from our past performances.
Love that. One from the start, one from closer to the end. Does he play on next year if he wants to?
I think the guy can write his own check.
Write his own pension card.
Yeah, exactly right. I think, look, he's earned the right to make the decision. And if that decision is to go on next year and the performances warrant it, where, he's only maybe playing 70%, 80% game time, maybe, 14, 15 games in a year, but he's still so consistent and such an important cog in our team, why not? Yeah. Give the guy the opportunity. He doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon with his decision-making and his execution. If he retires, well, then you know what? It's a career that is to be celebrated, and I think clearly he'll go down as probably Collingwood's greatest player ever.
Yeah, and that's been the general consensus of our discussion as well, Nick. Last one before we let you go. It's been great having you on as part of the pod today. Just switching gears slightly, we had 8 players that played under 50 games that represented the footy club on Friday night. Which one of these young guys are you most looking forward to seeing develop, not just throughout this year, but I guess in the short-term future as well, as we start to move on some of our veterans?
There's a want and a need for this bloke to develop, and it's Charlie West.
Yep.
If we ever need a guy, a young kid, to develop and come along and start playing regular senior football, it's Charlie West.
Yep.
You can see all the hallmarks are there, the foundation's there. He just needs the time, like a lot of key forwards do, and he just needs an opportunity, an extended run in the seniors to find his feet and just, cement a spot in that team and be a regular contributor, because we are crying out for a tall marking forward, an option. Clearly, we were never a chance for Ben King. There was no chance we're anywhere near that. So this guy is the next logical, player, young kid to come along and take this forward line by the scruff of the neck and make it his own.
Great response, Nick. Now, can I ask you a follow-up? We saw Oscar Steen not play much AFL football at all across his first 3 seasons, and it seemed to allow him to come in at the right time when he was ripe to make his debut. Does Charlie West need to feature and be played undersized and maybe a bit prematurely, or should he be given a spot at AFL level throughout this season and beyond?
I think you need a spot. It's got to be the case with some of these young blokes, sink or swim. We need to find out if they're good enough to be AFL standard. And there's only one way to do that. They've got to play. Look, let's be honest. We're not probably going to contend for a flag this year. Maybe not even next year. So we just got to pump as much games into these guys that have promise. And, there's some weeks where they're not going to perform, but there's only one way they're going to find out over a long period of time whether they're going to develop into key contributors for the team. So I just say play the kids.
Play the kids.
Very well said, Nick, and great to have you on for our episode of the Pies Nation podcast today, mate. Great to hear from you. Looking forward to hearing from you on SpeakPie throughout the year.
Oh, yes.
And let's hope we get a big win on Saturday for Pendles.
Thanks, guys. Just before I sign off, I just want to say an amazing job that you guys do. The pod is so well listened amongst our group, and it's a big contentious point of joy every week. And I love your balanced views. So keep up the great work, guys. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
much
Nick.
appreciated.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Nick.
Nick. Enjoy the rest of your day and go Pies.
Go Pies. Cheers, boys.
That was Nick joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd. That can be you. If you guess the crowd closest, so keep an eye out for Lukey's posts each week. Have a crack. It's going to be a big one for Pendles on Saturday. Give it your best shot. If you are closest to the pin, that will be you joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd competition.
Well, we might as well do a quick one here, boys. How many do you think they get on Saturday afternoon? It's that after local footy's a big thing on a Saturday afternoon, I know, and that most ones games will be operating in and around that time. But what do you reckon? Can we get 90?
95.
You reckon?
Yeah.
95.
I think we can get to 95. I'm confident.
Weather check?
I
Always good for a few thousand on or off.
Yeah, usually it's my job. 18 and cloudy at this stage.
Yeah, I reckon we could see 96. I'm going to go.
If Hawthorn and Richmond for Dusty's 300 got 91, I think the West Coast factor isn't helping, but 90 would be huge, I reckon, if we can get that on a Saturday afternoon game against bottom of the ladder.
True.
Massive.
Couple more to wrap up. So we've got to get this VFL report in through Surge. But before we do, Marcus, unfortunately, the VFL boys were just outclassed by the Swannies, as were the AFL team.
Yes, it was a much bigger loss. We went down by 52 points, the star being Sammy Swadling with 40 disposals. I'm really looking forward to him making a debut in the back half of this season. He's putting together a very good VFL year despite the losses. But without further ado, here's the Surge.
Here's Surge.
Nicholas, VFL Round 8 saw a very young Pies side take on the Swans at the Tramway Oval, with the Pies making 4 changes to their lineup. The Pies were very competitive in the first half, getting their scores from defensive transition, but found themselves 31 points down at the major break. Pies goal kickers included Laverty, Saxena, McCarthy, Hewd, Swadling, Folkhead and Printable were our leading disposal getters. The Swans in the second half completely overwhelmed the Pies as a result of their bigger bodies experience and their ability to transition the ball through handball chains. The Swans dominated the territory battle and won most centre clearances. In contrast, the Pies' inexperience and execution created turnovers that placed themselves under unnecessary pressure and resulting in opposition scores. In the final term, and despite being 59 points down, the Pies, to their credit, continued to provide a contest, outscoring the Swans 4-5 to 3-4. Final scores: Swans 19-12, 126, Pies 10-14, 74. Pies go down by 52 points. Our goal kickers: Smith 2, Laverty 2, Saxena 2, singles to Hewd, Swadling, Kennedy and McCarthy. Highlights for me: Swadling 40 disposal and 1 goal, best on the ground game. Printable impressed with 24 disposals. Saxena was solid. Zach continued to improve his marking and forward craft, as did Smith's ruck work, and he also kicked 2 goals. Other draftees included Demetria worked hard with 21 disposals. Ryan was down today and was well beaten, as were most defenders. TJ solid with 19 disposals. Howes down on previous week but tried hard. He needs to keep his feet in contests, and Harrison had a better second half when moved into the centre. 12 disposals and 7 tackles. Round 9 sees the Pies play Werribee on Saturday, the 23rd of May at 11:05 at the Melbourne Avalon Oval. Werribee, go Pies.
Thank you very much, Serge, again.
No draftee. Watch this week.
No.
I'm joking, Serge. That was brilliant. Loved it. Loved every moment of it. But yeah, look, a big loss again in the VFL, and I think it's a sign of some of these younger guys having to come up. I'm calling them the baby Pies for those guys that are just getting their first games at the senior level, and that does tend to have a wraparound effect on the twos. So not going great sitting in 18th, but let's hope that we start to see some of these young guys still perform well.
And no Bobby again? did not feature for the VFL side.
Granted
this week.
leave,
Yes.
personal leave for the right reasons, we believe.
Yes.
Attending the birth of his third child, I
I
believe.
believe so, yes.
So let's hope that he's back playing soon enough.
And just a quick one, didn't mind the move of Harrison to the midfield. That could be something to keep an eye out for going forward.
Spent time there in 2024, Nico. He's a bigger body, similar type to that Bo McCreary mould, powerful runner, hits the contest hard. So I like it as well. I feel like he's just such a forgotten name for us at the moment. He was so important when he was in that side in 2024 before getting injured. So fingers crossed he can come back and hit the ground running. But again, it's like Ed Allen. Like, where do you fit him into this team at the moment? He almost has to rely on, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but someone to go down with an injury before he gets his chance. I wanted to make a point as well. Kind of ironic that a bloke with the last name House has a problem with keeping his feet, which has probably been my only gripe with Jeremy Howe since his time at the Pies. So I found that as a bit of a chuckle.
He does add those in every now and then.
And as Serge also pointed out, Illaru Smith with the 2 goals and the 14 touches. I mean, only 8 disposals, but it's probably as good a stat line as we've seen from Big Illaru. So I don't know if he'll be lacing them up against the Eagles. Maybe not. Who have they got? Have they got more than one ruckman? They've got what's his name? He's a bit of a
more Interpeninsula boy.
Had a good
Is
game.
that right?
Yeah. Actually, mad Collingwood supporter growing up as well. There you go. There's a bit of interesting fact.
Fair income. Yeah. So I don't know if they've got particularly dominant ruck stocks over there at the Eagles. DC might be able to get the done with Buller and McStay pinch hitting. I think so. But Smith's one to look out for in the back half.
He's doing all the right things, that's for sure. VFLW as well. The Pies opened their account. They had a nice win over Box Hill, 27-point victors in round 1. They 7-1 in the first half, and that was enough to see them through to get the job done. So they start the season in terrific style. They come up against Sandringham this Saturday, 11:05 a.m. at Trevor Barker Beach Oval, who also won their first game of the season in round 1. So the Pies getting the only win throughout the weekend on that front. But that will do. Get yourselves to the G. If you were somehow thinking about not attending, please get us there. We want it to be full of as many black and white supporters as possible to celebrate an icon of not just the club, but of our game. I'm sure I'll see you two there at some point throughout the afternoon. But Marcus, Jack, only one thing we need to do on Saturday, and that's just get the job done. No excuses.
Absolutely. And let's just hope Scotty can finish the game in fine fashion. No injuries, no dampener on the game. And who will be cheering him off, by the way?
Oh, well, it was Sidey and Howe in game 400. I assume they'll probably take the mantle again.
Yeah, the old boys will be there, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. What a moment, Nico. Looking forward to it. Can't wait.
45 and 4, please. All right, that will do for this week's Pies Nation podcast. I've been Nicholas Sacco. Until next week, you've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. We are thrilled to have the North Texas Devils sponsoring the Pies Nation podcast once again for season 2026, just in time to celebrate their 5th anniversary as a club. They are one of the best clubs to compete in the USAFL and are still on the lookout for new talent for both their male and female programmers in the lead up to the new season. Their aim is to have 2 male teams and a female side compete in the Nationals in Florida later this year. They've got a new coach in Brendan Silva, and their main man, Peter Wood, is a passionate Pies man, and it's why it's great to have their support across the campaign. To learn more about the club or register your interest as a player, click the links in our YouTube bio or podcast description and join the Devils today.